Hello there and welcome to another episode of Back to the Clubs with me, Major K. I am a DJ, producer and record label owner, and in this series I'm talking to other DJs about their club experiences. What was their first impression of a club and club life? In which club do they want to play because they haven't done that before? And what goes up but never ever comes down? The answer to that is your age. The answers to other questions are often surprising. Previous guests this season include Nico Parisi, Cynthia Laclay and, last episode, Mr. Lady. Today it's Dimitri Andreas. Before we introduce him, be sure to subscribe to Back to the Clubs in your podcast app. Give the show a raving rating too, it helps more people find the podcast. In your podcast app, you can also find my weekly mix podcast, Flash Forward Presents, with Major K. And @officialMajorK is my handle on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and TikTok. And now, Dimitri Andreas, a silent force in the Belgian dance scene. He's been known to produce a lot, and not only for himself, but for and with others as well. He rides the winds of music, so to speak, with techno always the thing he returns to, though he had brushes with even classical music. So yeah, tons of musical baggage. It's as if it needs to be carried by the luggage from Terry Pratchett's Discworld. I know, perhaps an obscure reference, but you really need to check those books. Discworld, Terry Pratchett. Anyway, a fun and long chat awaits with an awesome techno producer and DJ, Dimitri Andreas. Enjoy the show. Here we go.
Back to the Clubs with Major K.
This time back to the clubs, not from my studio and not recorded online, but from someone else's studio, and that someone else is Dimitri Andreas. Hi, thank you for inviting us to your studio.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's a really great sound, really great environment, and this is where you spend most of your time?
All my life, I'm living here. If I would have a bed here, I would sleep here.
Yeah.
Every day I'm working here from the morning till late at night.
Yeah. What kind of projects are you busy with at the moment?
I'm having some projects of my own, where I make solo, my own creative stuff. Mm-hmm. But I also have projects with other people. One with Igor Vicente, where we make a warmer house tech-influenced stuff. I also have a project with Spacit, who plays techno, but we have a kind of love for disco music.
Okay, something quite different.
Yes, I like to do different stuff and create different worlds. I need some changement the whole time. I cannot work 5 days on the same kind of music. So that's a thing I need, and it's interesting because sometimes you have influences from other genres that come in different projects. Yeah. So the project I have with Spacit is Marching Machines, and we already did 6 or 7 releases, I think, in the last few years. 2 more to come. Yeah. It's fun. But next to that, I have a lot of things I'm doing with all things with sound. Last year, I had an installation in the Ghislain Museum in Ghent, where you could listen immersively to a soundscape I made. But I'm mixing also for other artists, in Dolby Atmos, in immersive audio. Yeah, and do some ghost productions sometimes.
Yeah. Not for me, by the way. If you were thinking that, not for me, but yeah. And I think every project has its challenges, and I guess even if you're like in this business for a long time already, because how many years are you active doing this soundscaping, producing kind of stuff?
Officially, for the state, it's since May 2022, I saw yesterday.
Right.
I forgot it. So more than 20 years, in fact, 21 years. But I do it already since I'm a child. I mean, when I was 7, 8 years, I was already playing with little, small, I still have them, little keyboards. And I think the first big step was my first synthesizer I got when I was 12. I saved all my money for years before to have the synth. Even when we were with the family and grandparents going to the fairground, I said, okay, I will not go on the decadence. I want to save my money to invest in a synth. And that's, I don't know, I always had it in me.
Yeah, and do you know why? Because this is a really specific thing.
How did this came in my head?
Yeah,
good question.
Were your parents musically, did they make music, listen to music, had a big record collection? Did they take you to concerts? Or?
My dad had a tape recorder and had some, listened always to some LPs. But it was not that he was a extremely big music lover. He was more into writing books, in fact. He still has kind of a library in his house and in their house. So he was really, he had the same thing that I have with music, but with books. And I don't read. I'm really not the perfect son for him in that sense. But we share maybe that the passion to get lost in a certain thing.
I'm still trying to figure out what made you spark to it, because as I said when you're a kid and the first thing that you really want is a synthesizer, well, let's say that's not something that happens that often at that age.
It was a bit weird at that time even. I don't know, it gave me I remember when I listened to music as a kid that it really swallowed me in this world of the artists. I remember a program on Belgian television where the then unknown comic, what's his name again, who played all these roles, I don't know, he had a program for children, and every week it was a different thing. He went to a butcher, he went to a farmer, and one day he went to a music studio. And I remember as a kid seeing this, I felt this is what I want to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I almost got his name, but it's gone again.
It might crop up during the course of this interview, perhaps. Do let us know, because I'm kind of in the dark here, you know? I don't know who you mean exactly, but it sounds like something that might have sparked your interest if you see something and you think, oh yeah, this is nice. This is something that I perhaps would like to do.
It's maybe also to do when I think now... I was always interested in technical stuff. I mean, and why is that? I don't know. But everything with electricity, I was making little electrical circuits.
Yeah.
With lamps, and always wanted to do kind of little shows in the garage when the family came. Yeah. And so I was already attracted to this behind the scene. Mm-hmm. Working on entertainment, in fact. Yeah. But the music, it started with listening to Michael Jackson, in fact. My dad had a little tape recorder and a cassette of the Thriller album. And he was always listening to that. That's something. Mm-hmm. When he was writing on his typewriter, I heard the sound of the typewriter with Michael Jackson in the background. And a certain day, I could use this recorder to listen to this one tape I had. Yeah. And then a bit afterwards, I think a friend of me came with a cassette of Jean-Michel Jarre. It all comes back. And I don't know, discovering this music that sounded so different from everything you hear, because that time you didn't hear synthetic music on the radio. Everything was, classic pop. It started that moment, but this out of this world music really attracted me in a way. And then afterwards I discovered all the synthesizer greatest hits compilations, and then all of a sudden by accident I think I got an old new beat style compilation on CD, I think, and the beat gave it another dimension, and then everything changed.
I get what you're saying, because like Jean-Michel Jarre wise, when our teacher of French didn't really want to teach, he put in a video cassette of one of Jean-Michel Jarre's performances in Paris or whatever, like with the synths and like with the hands that like interrupted a laser beam and then the sound changed and whatever. Still don't know if that's a real thing or if it's just show.
I think he was a good showman.
Yeah, I think so too. But then again, the electronic music, it's like, as I said in interviews before, Vangelis as well. Like purely an electronic sound and just so otherworldly, and it's so fascinating. And I can guess, and before we recorded or started recording this interview, we were talking about Michael Jackson and about Thriller and how awesome it is and still holds up. And you demonstrated how Atmos, which you use, can give a different perspective of a track that you already know for like 30, 40 plus years. This
really opens doors emotionally in everybody's head who's listening, because you hear details that you never could hear in this music before. And like you say, this song still stands because it's an amazing composition. It's perfectly written, perfectly produced. Everything is right, and it's there. You cannot say this is wrong or this should have been like this. Everybody who worked on it was like top level. I mean, that's what makes the result this good. And listening to this, even if it's this old in Atmos, that makes you realize how good it is, in fact, because you hear all the details, you hear people, in fact, making all the sounds of the wolves in the background, and you realize, like, fuck, that must have been fun. You feel a bit more like you were in the studio with them.
Yeah, the process must have been amazing to create that record. And so now we kind of established what might have sparked your interest in doing a thing like that as well. What was then the first real production that you did?
When I was 18, I already made some music myself, but that never have... I already started playing live here and there in the neighborhood when I was 16. But after a while, people heard about it, and a DJ who played at Radio Galaxy, just over the border in France, contacted me and asked me, could you maybe make a record as a ghost producer for me?
Oh, okay.
And that was Dave Swayze. And he asked me, can we work in the studio together or something? And that was, in fact, the first release I had on vinyl. I remember that I was not sleeping for 3 days before I would get the vinyl in my hands. Yeah. So that was 98 or 99, I think. That was the first one. And then the second one was my first EP that I did on Marco Bailey's label. That time, Session Recordings was the name. Yeah, and then from there, I started playing more. The second EP came out that made really all my weekends full. Yeah, not long after I had a release on Music Man, and then I played more abroad, and I played Isle of Techno and some other festivals. Yeah, it's really it was quite a journey in the beginning.
Yeah, so your first production when you were 18, was that the time that you first went clubbing as well, or was that earlier, or?
I really started clubbing. I was looking younger than I was, so I could not get in a club before I was 16. Except for once, I had to play in a club when I was 15. But then the day that I was 16, I started going out like crazy. Yeah. I still remember the first little party I was on. It was a party where they played all kinds of music and maybe 3% things with a beat. Okay. But every time I heard a track with a beat, I felt like, why don't they play the whole night like this? And then the first time I went to a club when I was 16, I realized that this is the world I want to live in. Yeah. It felt so obvious for me.
Felt so right, yeah.
Yeah, it felt just like, this is what people need to live. I mean, this makes you feel good.
Do you remember what that first club was that you went to?
Yeah, it was not far from here, Lagoa. There was a club that had many different faces, or I mean not faces, but the styles changed a lot in the last decennia. But that time they played a bit softer house, transy stuff, and the club had a really particular sound. I remember it had a kind of very deep resonating bass, but also clear mids. I mean, that's a bit nerdy talk for sound guys, but that really influenced me in the way I made tracks all the years after. Mm-hmm. Because it was like a kind of a reference, like this is the reference how tracks should be mixed with harder kicks and this bit aggressive mids.
So you analyzed kind of the sound and tried to use that in your own productions then as well, because you thought, well, I want my records played here, so make sure that this works on this system.
And after a while, they played my records. It didn't took so long. Then later on, I played there a lot. I had good times. It was fun to be playing at a place that I was like. It was like a church for me. The first time I came in, I was really like nervous. Yeah, going in this club because it had something ritually.
Yeah. It's quite transcendental, so to speak. I think and. Is that a big club? How many people could go in there?
I think at that time everything was open because the club had like multiple places. I think there were 2,500, 3,000 people. Okay. And at that time in the 90s, it was full every weekend. I was the only one that arrived there by bike.
Easy.
Most of the guys had tuned cars that arrived there. Okay. So sometimes the first time I arrived there was by bike, and the second time I parked my bike behind the corner.
Yeah. Okay. Then people thought, well, oh yeah, he's parked his car somewhere else. Perhaps it's a really great one, but he doesn't want to brag or something. It's a possibility. It was just a bike, but that's fine as well. So Lagoa was then the first club that you went to go party, and was it the first club that you have your first ever DJ set in? Well, in a club, I mean. My first sets were in fact in Bruges, I think. Okay. But were more like halls where they organized a kind of rave. Okay. Yeah. So not really club set.
But the really first club, I think it's in Bruges, a small club that was called back then the Fame. I think that was the first place that was like officially a club that I played in. Yeah. I think in the beginning it were mostly parties. There were some parties also here in Kortrijk, in a place that doesn't exist anymore, the Bottelberg, and there was like a big room where you had 2,000, 3,000 people. There were techno parties with, I think, Mark Broom, Speedy J, with some other big names, yeah. And that's how I met Marco Bailey for my first record. I played just before him by accident because he had to play somewhere else, so he was booked early, and I was like the opener that night.
Right. Yeah.
And Marco Bailey heard me, and in my set, I still have it somewhere, I think, he gave me a little corner of a paper, and he wrote down, do you have have productions? Please send me over, and his email address. Because that time I only played live. I started as a live guy.
Okay.
So he heard that the music was cool, and that's how I had this first record.
So it's almost, it's by chance that you were on the same lineup, and that kind of the music resonated with him, and then the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, but sometimes these little moments and lucky moments are needed to make steps forward. Mm-hmm. It's always better to convince somebody without selling you than and I was just lucky that he played, because if he would have no bookings, he would have played after 12 or later on, and he would never have heard what I did, and my story would have been different.
Yeah. You talked about Fame, or the Fame in Bruges. What kind of club was that?
I don't know, because my perception when I was 16 or 15 was different than now. For me, it was like, wow, big thing. But I guess it was a small club with some tourists, I guess.
Yeah.
They played a bit club music. I remember that I made some music, and the DJ that played there, when Georges, that was the DJ of La Bouche, came playing there, he gave a cassette with this music. So there were some DJs coming over, play there.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, small clubs.
Yeah,
a
few hundred people and a lot of mirrors. I remember that was like typical for this time. I think.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I because like in clubs like even La Rocca and whatever, there were mirrors everywhere as well. It's it was really the nightclub vibe that you get from movies somehow. I think one of the questions we also ask in Back to the Clubs is, what does a good club need to excel? I think your answer is for sure going to be a good sound system.
Oh yes, I think everything is important. But a lot of club owners underestimate the value of a good sound system. Mm-hmm. It really makes you, it gives the possibility to go in a different world and to enjoy you a lot more than with a crappy sound system. I feel it every time I come in a club and I have to play somewhere. I already know in advance, what with this sound system I will be able to go this high. And I'm not talking about volume, but more about how you can touch people with music. I it's already a lot better these days. The standard is a lot higher than in the 90s. In the 90s, I really sometimes came in places that I was like, okay, between me and the DJ before me, we do a little change of the speakers. and sometimes I really ask them to change positions, to have like more bass. Because if you don't feel the bass physically in your stomach a little bit, I don't know, you need that. Mm-hmm. But no, this is not a problem anymore. It would of course be nice that you have immersive sound systems in clubs, and a lot of people that come here ask me, are there clubs where you can listen in immersive audio? And I think in London there's one, and I heard that in Ghent.
Is it Fabric in London, or?
No, it was something else, but it was like a really small club that was targeted to hi-fi freaks.
Okay.
That you can go there and drink a good glass, dance a little bit, but mostly to listen to music.
Okay.
And high quality. Yeah, nice concept.
Do you remember what it's called, the club?
Just like the other, I have to search for it. It's already a while ago that I saw it. But I hear that in Ghent there is a new place they built. I think it is the Winter Circus.
Okay, yeah.
They also installed immersive audio. I don't know exactly what kind of system, but it's they took it in account, and more places are doing it. Like the Schober in Kortrijk, which is more a theater kind of place, is building a new. They are reconstructing the old building, and they're building a new room where they will also install an immersive system.
Okay, so it's getting traction. So more and more, because I think for a lot of clubs it's an investment. Yeah. It's still a little bit experimental in that respect. That is it worth the investment? But you see that there's evolution in that.
Yeah, evolutions take some time, and it will not go overnight. It can maybe take 20 years before it becomes a standard. Just like when they went from mono to stereo, it took maybe 50 years before every player or media thing adapted. Like television in the 90s was still mono, I think, or in the 80s. It's only in the beginning of 2000 that every television station and every radio sent it out or broadcasted in stereo. Yeah. While stereo was invented, I don't know exactly, but I think in the 50s. It takes some time.
It takes time.
And I think it's the same with immersive, and you have early crazy adapters like me, but the mainstream follows. And everybody who comes here in the studio and that witness or lives a certain moment, listens to the music in Atmos, is touched, and everybody says, this is how it should be everywhere.
Yeah, I had a short demonstration before recording this Back to the Clubs, and it's you feel like you're there with the musicians. You really feel inside the room when they are playing, even if you know that it's a recording, it's as if they're performing live, so to speak. So I think I'm looking forward to experiencing that in a club. If it's well done, I think it can resonate and give some more emotional punch to tracks for sure.
Yeah, it's something that I want to experiment and invest in myself. I already did a show last year in November. And in theater with a choir. Yeah, it was like an electronic and classical mix that I did together with this choir. And I mixed the whole show in immersive audio. So with 6 speakers around the public and 2 above. Yeah. And that really, everybody talked about it afterwards, from like how much they were into the music. Yeah. And next year, in 2024, I'm doing also a kind of an experiment. I'm making music in a castle for people who are for 4 days meditating and doing mindful exercises. And I composed the music for this event, also in the immersive audio. It's the event is called The Crossing. There are still some tickets. Yeah, it's very interesting, especially in these. I'm really looking forward to this event, because you have people that are really 100% there, focused on the music, and that's the only thing they are doing, and maybe thinking a little bit in their head. Yeah. So for me, it's like, wow, I will have like a few hundred people, that are totally chill, listening to my music in immersive audio.
Yeah. When is that exactly?
The last weekend of April. It starts on Thursday and ends Sunday evening.
Okay, for people listening, you know what to do, right? Back to the clubs now. Is there a DJ performance that you saw in a club that kind of blew you away? A DJ who played like the set of his or her life, and of which you thought, nothing can top this set.
Good question. And I'm like, in a kind of archive searching for the things. The first thing that came in my mind was a set of Dave Angel that played, I think, the same night with Jeff Mills. Or maybe it's 2 nights that I mixed up now. Mm-hmm. But both of them, I saw them at the scene in Oudenaarde, I think. That was like an old monastery they changed into a club.
Okay.
And yeah, it was the moment in the end of the 90s, early 2000s, where you had more and more techno parties. And so they wanted to start the first techno club. And I remember being in this very dark club and being just in front of the booth and like with my mouth open and seeing how they were mixing vinyl. Yeah, that really was like, okay, shit, they are another level than I was at that time.
Yeah, the mastering of their craft.
Yeah, it was really a kind of a métier. How do you say that?
Yeah, métier. It's a good French word in English as well.
Yeah, it's. I also played with vinyl since I was 18, I think. It had something. It still has something because it has a physical aspect that is cool. And that time in good clubs, you had really good vinyl installations. That was a big advantage of a club, that you had like special feet under the technics.
Mm-hmm.
That was in concrete in the ground, so it didn't vibrate with the speakers.
Right. Yeah.
So the sound was always a lot better in clubs than you had on parties that were in places that they had to put a podium and all the stage and stuff, where it was always resonating, and you always had problems with vinyl.
Yeah. Yeah, it's vinyl is difficult, especially like the basic stuff. Once the ground shakes, or you just have a little push against the table or whatever, it's so sensitive, and you can fuck your set up, so to speak.
Yeah, you cannot be the crazy dude that is waving with his whole body back and forth. You really have to stand still, but like, I don't know, you really have to be under control.
Yeah, and that's difficult. I find that difficult. I don't know if I could do that, because like, you want to be with your crowd, with the music, and you want to dance while you're playing as well. And as you say, perhaps with vinyl, that's a little bit tricky sometimes.
Yeah, it is. But I grew up with this technique, I mean, that I had to be calm, and now I have the problem that a lot of people say, you're just standing there, you should dance and wave more. But I'm like, I grew up with being as still as possible to not skip a beat with the needle.
Okay. I get that. Yeah, and if it's something that you're used to do in that manner. So it's a tough one to get out of and do it differently, because you just are used to playing your sets as you do. So okay, so that's one point that you are going to look for in the future to adjust, or.
Oh yes, I don't know. I understand. Of course, it's better that you see a guy enjoying himself and having a crowd behind him, and that is like having the time of his life. That works. It's a nicer image than somebody like Jeff Mills, for example, that is in his own world, not looking up and doing his thing. Even if the music would be the same, this visual aspect really helps. Making fun. So sometimes if the party is really good, I can start moving. But it's maybe something I have to take in mind a bit more.
We talked about a great DJ set by other DJs. Is there one set that comes to mind where you thought of your set? Well, okay, this was totally what I wanted, how I wanted it to come across to the audience, and this is like the best set I've ever played.
Oh, difficult one. I think one of the sets that come to my mind is a set I played in Brighton in England. I was invited there by a cool guy. I'm bad in names today.
It's a hard one. Names, I know.
But it was a small club, and it was under the ground in a kind of a cave building where you had like on the roof like these hollow brick things.
Yeah.
And I came in. It was extremely dark, and they instantly guided me to the backstage. And this backstage was really the backstage of a movie I would direct. Like people were having drinks, sex, drugs.
Okay.
It was really rock and roll.
Yeah.
So I instantly had already a kind of a intro of this will be the vibe probably in the club. And the moment I arrived at the bar, I instantly felt like, wow, this is a crowd that is thankful and that I have to give the moment of their lives. Yeah. When you feel like this energy, it goes automatically, it feels, I don't know, you don't have to think. You just do what you feel like you have to do, and you get this response back and this energy from the public. And over there, it was crazy. I had to stop from the bus at 4, I think. And it was, the roof really went off like the last hour and a half. And yeah, I like these kind of small places with only a few hundred people. I think there were maybe 200-300 people. And I preferred that sometimes than a big stage. Mm-hmm. I think on a big stage, you really the art is more making a big show and maybe doing some things with visuals. While in a club, it's really about the energy, making a story with the right choice of records. Yeah. For some reason, that feels. That's really being a DJ there. Yeah. On a bigger stage, it feels more like a show because you have this distance to the audience.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of that club?
The DJ that invited me, and I'm happy that I found the name back, is Enzo Cifredi, a great guy. Okay. He's really doing well at the moment. I'm kind of proud that he's making it. Yeah. Yeah, it was a wired party that he organized in a club. I have to look it up. But there's a movie, and I think you can see it in a movie when you go on my YouTube channel. Yeah. There's a small movie about this night. Yeah, there's a shot there's a shot of the affiche.
No, okay, of the lineup.
Of the lineup, and I think there you see the name of the club.
So head over to the YouTube page of Dimitri Andreas. What is the URL of that?
I think it's youtube.com/Dimitri Andreas.
Oh, so original. Okay, we'll check that out. Yeah, I'm really curious what the club that is and if it still exists. What year was that?
2012, I think.
Okay, I'll check it out. We'll check it out and perhaps go visit there as well. Yeah, talk about clubs that you visited. Is there one club that you visited the most? Can be as just a party goer or as a DJ. Is there one club that you frequented the most?
Yeah, like in the beginning it was Lagoa, but then I went a lot to Fuse in Brussels.
Still a reference, Fuse.
Yeah, for me that was like coming home in a way, because my taste was the taste of the DJs over there, and especially I liked the warming up sets of Deck. I played a year ago together with him somewhere. Yeah, he has something, but yeah, I think it's probably Fuse.
That's a good one to have as your most visited club, I think, as it's still an internationally renowned club. And even if the future, we don't know what it will hold, because like after all those years in the Blaastraat,
they may maybe lose their
license to do their parties over there, as is happening in so many cities, kicking nightlife out of the city. It's not a good thing. I think, it's underestimating the value of nightlife for the economy, like for restaurants,
and even next to economy, the culture, I mean, the value this club has can be put next to big museums. I mean,
Of course.
it's a pity that politicians not always realize this, and maybe it's up to us and and for the Fuse to make this information available in the language of a politician to understand how important this is.
Yeah, no, the thing is, why I refer to the economy is because for people it's easier to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's the value of money.
Yeah.
Of course, we know that it's more like the cultural thing as well, and that it's more profound than that as well. But like for your city, it's so valuable in every respect, you know.
Yeah, in Berlin they really understand this, and they are pumping millions into nightlife because they realize that the attraction, like you have the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Mm-hmm. And nightlife is really an attraction for the city, and it's important also for the economy. I mean, you have extremely big companies like Native Instruments and other companies who make music gear, are all based in Berlin, and that came all because of the nightlife scene that thrives there.
Yeah, exactly. Another question. You talk to other DJs, you have your own experience as a DJ. Is there a club that is supposed to be the best in the world at this moment?
Difficult one also, because it can be good in different ways. Mm-hmm. One of the most rich experiences I had was when I was younger, was in Space in Ibiza, because Carl Cox was playing there, and at that time I had like a lot of records that came out, records that I did as Dimitri Andreas, but also some collaborations. And I remember that Carl Cox was playing in the terrace, that's like the entrance where people gather before the big hall opens, and he was playing already some records of me, and that was one of the best moments of my life, I think, because it was like, okay, the biggest DJ of the moment still is. That was playing my records, and this experience of this big hall opening with all the stuff they did, the lighting, the sound system, everything was so high level. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I met a girl back then, also just that moment, so everything came together.
Yeah, that's a good bonus, of course.
And so it was I think that felt really, maybe because of the things that came together there as a moment for me, like, this is the place, the best place, this is Mecca.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still like this because I haven't been there for years.
Mm-hmm. Well, for one, space exists again, but not at that location. Mm-hmm. Because that became High Ibiza.
Yeah, right.
But now there's a new Space Ibiza, and I'm going to visit there and possibly play there in May.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm going to Ibiza also in May, so maybe it will be the same moment.
Okay, that would be cool. For me, it's the 16th till the 23rd of May.
I think it's the week before.
Ah, damn. Perhaps there's overlap. Let's hope. But that's one of the clubs that might be a possibility for me to play at. So I'm kind of psyched. Talking about aspirations, is there a club that you really want to play in that you haven't played in before?
Yeah, Space.
Okay. So let's do that in May 2024. We'll fix that. Two better than one. It's an idea.
You can do a whole month, Belgian month in May, while there are not that many tourists yet.
No. Exactly. Yeah, let's... let's see what's possible. It's would be great. Yeah, and space. Of course, as I said, don't know how the space at this moment compares to the space that was space earlier. If you know what I mean. As I said, it's a different location, or so I gather. So we'll need to find out if it's up to par and if it's up to the standards that the previous space had set in the day. Okay, well, after those aspirations and the deal that we are going to play in space, what can we expect for sure of you in the future? What are you doing? Are you producing? Are you going to play here and there? Where can people find you? What can people find of you?
So, like I said already, in April, there's this really special 4 days, The Crossing. I made an album with Mark Romboy that was released in September, Metamorphosa, together with the singer. And that's also a really special project I didn't talk about. And there could be some live performances with this project.
Okay.
Let's hope that next year this becomes a reality. Yeah. And behind, next to that, I have some gigs here and there, but I'm working a lot on music at the moment to get this a bit wilder.
Okay, but those are things we can look forward to hear the new music and to see you perform wherever you're performing. I think, well, as you described the projects, that there's a special edge to those projects. It's always interesting to see that happen then, I think.
Follow me on Instagram and you will see what's happening.
We will for sure do. You can find all details about Dimitri Andreas in the show description. Just check out your podcast app where you're listening at this moment, of course. Check the show description and find Dimitri Andreas on his socials and on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. And, well, thank you so much for being in your own studio. Thank you for inviting me to your studio and that we could have this chat today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Did too. Thank you so much. So much fun talking to Dimitri Andreas. I think we could have gone on for a couple of more hours, that's for sure. Let me know what you think of this podcast series so far. Only 2 more episodes to go. Reach out on my socials, all at Official Major K. Don't forget to subscribe to Back to the Clubs in your podcast app and go get your Back to the Clubs logo t-shirt on dancemusicmerch.com and support the show. Next week, I'll be talking to Madness Factory, a DJ from Serbia. For now, see you next time and enjoy the sunshine. Bye-bye.
Back to the Clubs with Major K.